A happy new year to everybody watching. This is Philadelphia Eagles now. Despite the Birds' loss, which was just awful and ugly to the Arizona Cardinals on New Year's Eve, hope all of you are kicking off 2024 in great fashion and you had a safe and entertaining and fun night last night, maybe even drinking away your sorrows from that Eagles loss. Coming up on today's show, a therapy session of sorts. We want to hear from Eagles fans everywhere. Do they still believe in this football team? Or is this season over for Philadelphia, and how can they turn it around? Let's explore it all here on Eagles Now. I'm Chase Senior. Thanks for being here. Let's begin with David Marcella, a $5 super chat. The players have checked out. Every coach should be fired. I'm not going to go as far as to say that every coach should be fired. And I've been a staunch defender of Nick Sirianni. I think he's done a really good job in his now 3 seasons as head coach. Year 1 of a rebuild, overcomes a slow start, Eagles make it to the playoffs. And I like how he pivoted a couple of things during that rookie season. He gave up play calling for Shane Steichen, it worked. And the Eagles went from a pass-happy offense to a run-heavy offense, which fit their personnel, and it worked out. And to make the playoffs in year 1 of a rebuild was a win. And then last year was a magical season. Eagles were blowing everybody out. They went 14-3, number 1 seed. Home field advantage went through Lincoln Financial Field. They played a really good game against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl that they frankly should have won, and they choked it away. And Nick Sirianni was a part of that. Up by 10 at halftime. The James Bradbury hold was just a crusher because I do believe that if Jalen Hurts got the ball back there with about 90 seconds left, given how the Eagles offense performed, he was going to be able to march the Eagles down the field to get a win. I really do believe that because that's how the pace of the game was really moving. This year, though, all year, the Eagles have been sloppy. Going back to the preseason, Nick Sirianni was flipping out during preseason practices because of bad communication, because of penalties, because of sloppy play, because the Eagles were not in sync. They were not in line. And all year, from the Patriots game week 1, all the way up until now, this has been an Eagles team that is out of sorts, where something doesn't feel right. And somebody said it in the comments section. I'm so tired of hearing the word execute. I'm damn tired of hearing the word execute as well. When are you going to go out and actually execute for a full 4 quarters and for a full 60 minutes? The Eagles this year, think about this, with how dominant they were last year, going into halftime with multi-score leads, have not played a full game from minute 1 to minute 60. Not a clean game. From minute 1 to minute 60. And it does feel as though right now that the players have checked out a little bit. You do have the team leaders like Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Hurts. They still believe. Jason Kelsey. But A.J. Brown continues to decline to talk with the media. You have Hassan Reddick saying, yep, we blew it. You have all these arguments on the sideline. Something is not right. And you have to wonder what's going through Jeffrey Lurie's mind and Howie Roseman's mind if the Eagles are winning out in the playoffs. I'm not going to go as far as to say that Nick Sirianni's seat is hot, but they have some questions to ask themselves. And Nick Sirianni's got to look in the mirror if this Eagles team does go winning out. And right now, would it surprise you with them backpedaling into the playoffs? It wouldn't surprise me. Emmanuel Henderson, $20 super chat. Who do you blame? Everyone. We're playing like the Cowboys of the 2000s. Poor execution, bad play calling. The defense is playing touch football instead of tackling. This team needs to get their head out of their asses. The Cowboys have always been an organization that has not been buttoned up, that commits penalties, that has false starts, delay of games. They're awful with game management, and still are. Mike McCarthy, his decision to throw the ball on second down gave the Lions an opportunity to win that game, and they should have won that game. But the Eagles are sloppy just like that. Poor execution, bad play calling on offense and defense. It's unbelievable that the Eagles are able to give up 200-plus rushing yards to that Cardinals team and to not be able to get off the field and even force third downs. Eagles forced 2 third downs in the second half against Arizona. The Cardinals' drives went as such. 10 plays, 75 yards and a touchdown. 9 plays, 77 yards and a touchdown. 8 plays, 77 yards and a touchdown. 7 plays, 70 yards, and a touchdown. This team does need to get their head out of their asses. And their head has been in their asses since training camp. When back then we were talking about this team, reports, a little bit sloppy. Mike Persia, I still have hope, but the preseason vanilla offense and lack of tackling on defense definitely ain't getting us far in the playoffs. There's just no rhythm and there's no consistency to what the Eagles do on the offensive side of the ball. And it does get pretty vanilla with not a lot of creativity there. And for Kevin Byard to say, we didn't match the Cardinals' level of physicality, how is that something that a player says for a team that is looking to lock down the division and potentially get the number 1 or number 2 seed in the playoffs against a bad Cardinals team? You don't match their level of physicality? Inexcusable, man. And going back to Marcella's point, maybe some Eagles players have checked out. Words of wisdom 5, Chase, not you, but to every Eagles fan, screw you. This is what you get for being such pricks about Brock's injury last year, eating popcorn over your demise. It ain't pretty in the streets of Philadelphia right now. And with the way that the Eagles have been playing, they've opened themselves up to this type of negative talk from others. Emmanuel Henderson, $20 super chat. Sorry about the bad grammar. I'm so pissed watching this game today. What is Howie and Jeffrey Lurie thinking about the last couple of games? Howie's to blame as well. This Eagles linebacking core, I'm sorry, if you have a kid watching, I'll give you 5 seconds to mute it. This Eagles linebacking core is a fucking joke. It really is. They're running out the corpse of Shaq Leonard. Nicholas Morrow can't cover. Zach Cunningham didn't play. You're playing Ben Van Sumeren, a UDFA out of Michigan State, significant snaps. They can't plug the holes in the ground game. They can't make plays against the ground game. And in the pass game, they continue to get exposed. The safety position, you addressed it too late. Desperation heave for Kevin Byard, who has just been okay. You should have brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And so Howie is to blame for some of this stuff. Jeffrey Lurie is probably like, man, losing 4 or 5 down the stretch under my ownership, this hasn't happened a lot. And it hasn't. Under Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, historically, during my lifetime, this has been a team that plays clutch football in December and January. And right now, they're doing anything but. And I imagine that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, and hopefully Nick Sirianni, they're having conversations. What went wrong and what's going on? Because something ain't right. Today's show sponsored by Prize Picks. Start off 2024 right by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS for a $100 deposit match. What that means is you put in $100, you get $100 back. And this is the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players. You choose more or less on their projected stat lines, and you can win up to 25 times your money this season. Let's continue to move forward and answer some of your questions. Tariq Shell, that game was BS. What kind of play was that 21-point lead and you choked? The OC, DC, and head coach need to go. I think the Eagles might be making a change at defensive coordinator. They've already made one change, but I think they're really going to try to get a better defensive coordinator in here. Us thinking that Matt Patricia was going to solve issues and Nick Sirianni thinking that Matt Patricia was going to be the answer. It's kind of hilarious in hindsight. I will say, previous 2 games, I even said, like, the Eagles were better on 3rd down and in the red zone, but I cautioned everybody and did say, this is coming against Drew Lock and Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito. What happens when you go up against a better quarterback? Today, they went up against a better quarterback and Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray was able to make some exceptional plays. But was also awful about this Eagles game is just the amount of rushing yards that they gave up. And Arizona clearly had a game plan. They pinpointed that Philadelphia was not going to be able to stop the run, and they wanted to go right at them, and they wanted to force Philadelphia, who's been down and out mentally, to match their level of physicality. Eagles weren't able to do that. 40 carries, 221 yards from the Cardinals. That right there is embarrassing. Bird Gang Eagles, This defense is very bad, but I don't think we are a Super Bowl contender. But if we can clean all this up before the playoffs, can we still be a Super Bowl contender? Again, I'm just going to go back to this. I can't think really of a scenario in which a team has been able to play this poorly, lose 4 of 5 going into the final week, be this disjointed offensively and defensively with weird vibes around it and everybody not getting along, and then be able to capture momentum and find a groove in the playoffs. I mean, it just rarely happens. So while I've tried to be the voice of reason, the voice of positivity, saying this Eagles team can still get it done, they're running out of time. And the momentum that they picked up last week is flushed down the toilet this week with this loss to Arizona. Ernesto, with today's loss, is it now impossible for the Eagles to win the NFC East, or is there some hope? What has to happen is that the Cowboys need to lose to the Commanders next week, and the Eagles need to win. And if that happens, the Eagles will win the division. But we really think that the Dallas Cowboys are going to lose to the Washington Commanders on the road in Week 18? It's a bad Commanders team. And they're not even sure who they're going to start at quarterback, whether it be Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell. And they just got shut out in the second half by San Francisco and dominated in that game. So it is still possible. I just don't expect it to happen with the Cowboys losing to the Commanders, and then the Eagles have to beat the Giants. Simem, chances of a change in offensive coordinator or any other coaching positions. If we're talking about right now, it's just too late. Eagles won't be making any changes right now. It's too late in the game, too late in the process. This offseason, it's going to be fascinating to see what Nick Sirianni does. Tamar Bowles, how do we fix this for next year? If the Eagles get bounced in the first round and they backpedal into the playoffs, which is what they're doing right now, it's going to be a weird offseason. And this taste isn't going to go anywhere, right? This taste is going to continue, and it's a bad taste. And you have to wonder if the Eagles will make some somewhat sizable changes this offseason if these concerning things continue to happen. I don't think they're going to move on from Nick Sirianni after making it to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but if the Eagles are flat next year and these issues continue, does it shock you if they move on from Sirianni after next year? It really wouldn't surprise me all that much. Colin, thoughts on Ringo and Ricks today? Came down to earth a little bit. Ricks and Ringo were picked apart a little bit during Sunday's game against Arizona, and it's so funny. Like, I did a show this week defending Nick Sirianni. Eagles play like this. I did a show saying that Keely Ringo, Eli Ricks, and Shaq Leonard have brought a boost to this Eagles defense, and they were bad. Like, Shaq Leonard had an opportunity at a tackle around the goal line, completely whiffed, led to a touchdown. And so Ringo and Ricks, part of the defensive struggles are because this Eagles team is so young on the defensive side of the ball. Getting Darius Slay back, that's much needed. James Bradbury continues to suck. Andriarno, $5 in, I think, European currency here. Worst loss I've seen in a decade of being an Eagles fan, at least from what I can remember. Shout out to the "What the hell are you doing" lady, though. Yeah, I want to marry her. She's in the stands. What the hell are you doing on that final drive? That was everybody. That was me. That was Chip. That was all of you. Every Eagles fan in the stadium. Quarterback run, screen pass. We're just going to settle for a field goal, knowing that our defense hasn't stopped Kyler Murray all day. Yeah, and you think about the moment, the significance of this game, what was at stake, what was possible for this Eagles team. This is as bad of a loss as it gets. What needs to happen for us to not be one and done? They're going to have to play their best football against what looks to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Bucs are going to win the division. And so they're going to have to go down there. Baker Mayfield's been cooking up until today. Who's to say he's not going to cook this secondary? Chris Godwin, Mike Evans against these DBs and this secondary? That's scary. Baker Mayfield up until Sunday has been clicking, playing really good ball. You're going to have to shore up the secondary. The pass rush is going to have to get home, and they continue to be in the witness protection program, nowhere to be found. And this Eagles offense got to stop committing penalties, can't turn the football over. Communication has to be a little bit better. Again, these things are correctable, but we've been talking about these things all year, and it's now about to be Week 18, and they're still not fixed. Make sure you subscribe to the show. Make sure you turn on those notifications as well. Therefore, when we do go live, you will be notified, and you get to stay in the know with all things Eagles year round.